This channel is all about finding ways to save money, and here's a way you can save money with an everyday thing, and that is shaving. I always hated buying replacement cartridge blades, and I would overuse them so much because I just hated buying more. Every time I'd look at the price, I'm like, ugh, I'm not spending that, and then go home and use my dull one, and it was terrible. A couple of friends of mine had started wet shaving a few years ago and had been encouraging me to, and it turned into kind of a hobby for them, and I really had no interest in it until I started looking at the cost, and that's really what convinced me to make the switch. It was all about the money. So I'm going to show you what it cost me to get started, what it costs me to continue. I'll share a couple tips that about how to get started. I'm not going to get into how to wet shave. There's lots and lots of videos. One channel I especially suggest is my friend's channel, the Northern Shave Guy. He's got a video called How to Shave in 120 Seconds. It's a great video to get started with, and he has lots of videos about recommendations of brushes and soaps that you can look at if you want. So here's my setup. The first thing I bought was a brush. This is an Omega brush, very popular brand, great brand. I bought this locally at a drugstore. I think it cost me about $15, and that's the price you can expect to get a reasonable brush. This is a boar hair brush. You can get badger hair as well, which is more of pillowy soft. The boar is a little stiffer. I like it. It was easily available. I just kind of grabbed it off the shelf. It was the only kind they had, but it served me well. I bought this 2 years ago, and it's still going strong. There's really no signs of wear on it. The other thing I bought was a soap. This is a Prorazo. The green, they have a few different kinds. This one is like a minty eucalyptus. The red, I've heard, is a very good one too, although I haven't tried it personally. This cost about $10 or so. The soaps last a long time though. I mean, if you're only using one soap, it's gonna last you for months. You really don't use much at a time, and that's one thing that's really cheap. The razor is going to be the biggest investment. This is the Merkur 34C. I'll put a link in the description to where you can buy it on Amazon. This cost me $50 Canadian. US, it's about $30. And I did a bit of research before I settled on this one. It is one that's recommended for beginners. And the reason I settled on this one was because it's a little shorter handle. And you can keep your finger under it, which, when your hands are wet and soapy, it's nice to be able to, have your finger under so it doesn't slip out of your hand. Also, it's a two-piece. There's 3 different types of razors: 2-piece, 3-piece, and butterfly. The butterfly, the top is split here, and when you undo the bottom, you unscrew it, the 2 pieces on the top open up, and then you can take the blade off the top. The 3-piece, you undo it, and the 2 pieces on top are 2 completely separate pieces, and they all come off. This one is a 2-piece, so if I undo this, the top comes off, but the bottom part stays on here. That's all one piece, and then that's how the blade comes off. Usually you do this, on the counter, so you're not holding the blade, but I'm trying to show you. So that's how you change the blade out. I do recommend that you put some money into your razor. This is a very solid one. It's very, they call it heavy duty. It's got a nice weight to it. You could whip this against the wall and it would probably still survive. This will probably outlive you. So yes, it's a little costly up front, but it's only a one-time cost. The blades are where you really save the money. Those you can buy online. There's tons of different brands out there. You can get a sample pack if you want to figure out what kind of, you know, blade you like the best. But this is what I used, Astra Superior. It's kind of a, you know, upper middle of the road. It's a great blade, but it's not top of the line. But it really is a good blade. And I bought this pack of 100 for $12 on Amazon. And you use one blade, you know, one blade will last you 3 shaves, you know, 2 if you have really coarse hair. But yeah, you know, $12 for over a year supply, maybe even 2 years for me. It's incredible, you know, that it's dirt cheap. And that, you know, was the biggest reason I made the switch. You know, you can use a bowl, $3 at Target. Some people use a soup mug as well. You don't need it. It's kind of optional, especially if you have a soap that comes in a bowl like this. You can just lather in this. You know, use the brush and lather it up in here. It's perfectly acceptable. But I got a bowl. And the reason I got the bowl is because I made this stand. You can buy stands fairly cheaply, but I tend to overdo stuff, and I decided I'd make one. So this is a maple base with a rod that holds my brush. And yeah, I made that. You don't really need a stand. I mean, if you want to just, you know, do this, there's certainly nothing wrong with that, especially if you don't have kids that will come and grab your razor. I, you know, ended up buying a shelf that I can put my stand on, but the kids can't reach. A couple of tips for getting started shaving. When you're coming from cartridge razors, with cartridge razors, you tend to push on your skin with them, which, you know, you can do with cartridge razors because they're made so that the blade can never dig into your skin. This, you know, there's an open blade there, and so if you push, you're gonna cut yourself. So that was one thing to get used to, is just, you know, use the weight of the razor and nothing more. And the other thing is, when the odd time that you will nick yourself, what I do to help with that is I use hot water beforehand, before I shave, and that opens up your skin, kind of loosens everything, and then cold water after, and that tightens up your skin and tightens your pores. And the benefit of that is if you do nick yourself, just that act of putting the cold water and closing all your pores and, you know, shrinking your skin is usually enough to stop the bleeding. I think maybe once I've ever cut myself bad enough that it kept bleeding after the cold water. So those are my tips. I hope you can save as much money as I did. Again, if you want to get started on this, check out my friend's channel, The Northern Shave Guy. I'll have a ton of links in the description to all of these products. And again, all you need to get started is a razor, brush, soap, and blades. You know, I have a little bit of a cost up front, but the ongoing cost is next to nothing. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe to my channel to see my upcoming videos, and thanks for watching.